Hi, this is James Clements, and in this second part of the bid management case study, while collectively all of the videos I'll do make up the practice of bid management, I want to talk firstly a little bit about the overall aspects of managing the bid, some of the housekeeping if you like. In doing this, I sat down and thought if I had to make sure there were 3 or 4 elements I absolutely had to get right in a bid, what would they be? I came up with the following 4 activities that you absolutely have to get right to manage the bid. And these things are over and above the traditional stuff like proposal writing, estimating and strategy, which I'll address separately. I'll talk more about each of these in turn, but briefly, you need to define the scope of what it is you're bidding. Obvious, but many bid managers fail to do this and everything suffers as a result. Related to the project scope but discreetly different is the scope of the deliverables that will make up your proposal. What you'll deliver, what it will look like, and the key messages to the client. Managing the resources. Asking and defining where will the resources to develop the bid come from and how will you manage them is a key consideration. Finally, as you develop your proposal, you will need a process to check its accuracy, its messaging, how will you improve it, and how will you convince your management that it's correct. The scope. What are we bidding? Seems simple, but you will regularly find this is not well defined, and there will be instances when this is being defined as part of the bidding process, particularly when there's an element of design involved. I also see instances where the bid team, in the absence of any other direction, bid what they bid last time. So if your project has some new aspects or you are trying a new execution strategy, this needs to be defined and communicated. The message is lock down your scope as soon as you can and communicate it to everyone. Even when there are unknowns, you can still produce a scope definition as soon as the bid starts by outlining what you do know, what you don't know, and what assumptions you've made. Then you update it regularly as the bid evolves. Finally, ensure you review against the final scope of work and your estimators are able to articulate the basis upon which their estimates were developed. Like the project scope, defining and communicating what you will deliver, how you will deliver it, and who is responsible for each deliverable is crucial. You should issue a responsibility assignment matrix to communicate this to the bid team and at the start of the bid. We will address bid strategy and win themes as a completely separate video. For now, we want to note that as the bid manager, you need to ensure a clear strategy to win is developed and that the look and feel of the proposal is defined and consistent across the bid. Resources are an area where many bids have gone off the rails. You can have the best strategy to win, but without the resources to engineer the solution, estimate, plan and develop the proposal, it will look and feel second rate to the client. You need to define who you need and where the resources will come from, and you need to ensure you have alignment between what they and their boss think they are going to do and what you think they are going to do. 2 typical areas this can go astray are firstly, the boss has other things for them to do, so you might think you have them full time, but in fact they're only allocated 50% or something. Secondly, you will regularly find shared resources being given one set of instructions by you and differing instructions by their boss. The best way to address this is to have functional managers in some way involved in the bid qualification process, so they are aware of the upcoming bid workload and they are aware of and involved in the development of the bid strategy. Finally, you need to define how you will go about reviewing the proposal. Not only the documents that will be sent to the client, but the underlying data that allowed you to arrive at your final offer to the client. Things such as risk, engineering, schedule, estimates and contractual issues. The best way to do this is to put in place and communicate a defined review and approval process and align your bid milestones to this. Again, I will do a specific video on review and approval, but for now, I want to express the importance of involving your peers and if possible outside experts in the review and approval process. Peers give you real-life experience and are usually better aware of the pitfalls in projects. Similarly, external experts can give you a reality check on how outsiders perceive your company and your bid, which you may miss being so close to the action. Now finally to the case study. In this bid, the scope was very clearly laid out by the client, so that was not a major difficulty apart from the sheer volume. But because the bid involved a Spanish partner, a need to have sufficient Australian construction content without allowing the price to escalate, how that scope would be split between all the parties was not clear. On top of that, there was also a need to provide options that the client requested and the contractor also nominate options where they saw cost savings, risk reduction and Australian industry involvement opportunities. The final document that allowed all parties to complete their proposal was a scope split document that defined the scope of all parties and very importantly their interfaces on the physical product and in the project management and engineering aspects. The bid was submitted with the primary bid plus 26 options, so the key was to develop a tender map so the client could clearly understand at any time what they were reviewing. Finally, we did not expect to be the cheapest option. You'll see to the left the executive summary cover, which clearly articulates a very simple message to the client who was seeking the best value for money, that the ship and the contractor above all else were the most capable. Next week I'll address how to put in place a simple review and approval process. If you're having difficulty defining and documenting scope in bids or in projects, follow the link below and the show notes to the scope management package I have available on my website. Thank you.